Do give it a second, y'all. Do give it a second. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
I'm 19.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
Why so?
I like Donald Trump because he fixed the stock market.
Okay, I just think there's such a likelihood of them being a troll that I'm just kicking them. Yo, thank you so much. I really appreciate the little crown. Do give it a second, y'all. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates.
All right, mate.
What's up? How old are you?
I'm 19.
Okay, I already know you're not actually a guest. Why is this person spamming that in the comments? All right. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates. Please, everyone, only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Alrighty. Do give it a second. Alrighty. I'm trying to get people up here. Do give it a minute, y'all. Okay, I just honestly, anyone that has a fucking camera, I'm just gonna kick. Low key, if you have camera access, it's the risks are so unbelievably high. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
31.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
No.
I can't hear you. Is there a way you can fix your mic?
Is that better?
Yeah. So why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
I believe.
So why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
Hello.
I hear you. Why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
Hello.
Appreciate that in my session. Yep. What's up? Why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
I can't hear you.
I hear you. You should turn up your volume. Turn up the volume.
What? Wait. Hold on. Hello.
Katharina, thank you so much for the $20. Thank you so much, Katharina. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Love from Germany. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Katie. What's up? I hear you.
Oh, what do you ask me?
Why'd you vote for Donald Trump?
He better.
Why is he better?
His laws were better in 2016.
Okay. So, you think the economy was good in 2016?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was president?
Right now,
In 2016, who was president?
Donald Trump.
Nope. It was Barack Obama. So, Trump inherited a good economy?
What? His laws were instituted in 2016, though.
And what? I honestly...
Obamacare was a scam.
Can you tell Jesus to take the wheel?
Hello.
Can you tell Jesus to take the wheel?
What does that mean?
Just tell Jesus to take the wheel.
They don't take the wheel.
I'm proud to be an American.
No, you are not.
Damn right.
No, you are
Chris,
not.
think of $1.23. Yeah, I mean, when we have a president of the United States that was a convicted felon, held civilly liable of sexually abusing a woman, that released violent criminals from the country.
False.
Ariana, think of the $4.44. No, it's not. What was false?
That is a false.
Oh, thank you so much, Ariana. That's so incredibly nice of you. What was false?
The New York. The liars.
Okay, all right. I'm just gonna go on to the next person. Okay, all right. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates. Please, everyone, only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump.
Yo.
You know what? We're not gonna trust anyone with camera access. So I'm sorry if you have camera access, you'll probably get kicked off the stream. Yo, what's up, Howdy?
Fuck me, daddy! Fuck me, daddy! Fuck me, daddy!
What's the point of doing that? I really don't get it. I actually don't understand. Oh, accidentally tried to add up the wrong person. Fuck. How do you turn off camera? There is no possible way. I'm sorry. If you have camera, there's just too high of a risk right now that like I'm not gonna add you up probably. Oh, this person has camera access. Yeah, if you're Maga, type it in the comment section right now, and I'll try to bring you up. Let me see. Oh, they have camera. Kicked. I'm sorry. If you have camera, you probably do. You probably will get banned. All right, this person isn't. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
I'm 24.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
Okay, why'd you do that?
I first of all like his foreign policy. I think he would be better than Kamala on that.
Why so?
First of all, Israel-Palestine. I think he provides Israel with the right support.
Are you pro-Palestinian?
No,
So are you a Zionist?
I wouldn't call myself a Zionist, but I'm pro-Israel in this specific war.
Okay. Are you pro the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians?
Mm,
And then turning it into Trump Gaza and owning it and controlling it in the long term for real estate development?
Hold on, you claiming it's? Are we discussing if it's an ethnic cleansing, or are you asking me if I'm pro it?
Like, are you in support of Donald Trump doing those things?
Which part? The rebuilding Gaza?
And to Trump Gaza for real estate development and not giving the Palestinians a right to return?
No, so I'm not in support of not giving Palestinians a right to return.
That's exactly what Donald Trump's policy is.
Well, it doesn't take away from the fact that I agree with his support for Israel. This is a minor detail in the plan that I
A
disagree
minor detail? I don't think it's a minor detail to ethnically cleanse Palestinians.
with. Ethnically cleansed is a big difference than not letting them
No,
back.
not giving them a right to return is by definition ethnic cleansing after forcefully relocating them.
Oh, so you know, ethnic cleansing as in removing them from that area, not
Yeah,
killing them.
it's force. Yeah, ethnic cleansing is forcefully displacing people and permanently keeping them out of the area. That's what ethnic cleansing is.
Got it. So in that case, I would claim, even though I don't agree with the point of not letting them come back, and I'm pretty sure he said that they might be able to come back, but he didn't give a clear.
No, he said no right to return to Brett Bauer on Fox News.
Right. I think he meant that in a sense of like.
The fact that you honestly referred to ethnic cleansing as a minor detail is disgusting as fuck.
No,
It really is. It really is.
No, but I referred to the minor detail. I wasn't referring to the ethnic cleansing part.
You said the no right to return, which is by
Right,
definition the part of ethnic cleansing.
Right, but what I was talking about was my definition of what Donald Trump said, which is that they won't be able to return to Gaza and get back their house or whatever it is. But if they're going to be removed to a different country, they're obviously going to have a passport and they could travel the world with that passport. If they choose to go to Gaza, then I don't think that they could travel to every country in the world besides for Gaza. That doesn't make sense. And I don't think
I'm confused. Again, Donald Trump said no right to return. If you aren't willing to take that into account, then I'm just going to kick you off and go talk to the next person because there's no productive dialogue to be had with you. If you're not even willing to take the Donald Trump's explicitly said positions as his positions, then we're just living in different realities.
I got you. So I can get on to another point within the conflict of Israel-Palestine, which I think.
No, I'm just saying, can you accept that? If you can't accept that, just let me know because I don't want to engage in this conversation any further.
The ethnic cleansing part, right? All right.
Are you able to take it into account that that's his position?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so then given that he does have this position, right, why do you stay in support of him?
Because if you disagree with someone on one point, that doesn't disqualify all of his other points.
Isn't this a pretty big point?
I would say it is a pretty big point, but killing 1,200 people and kidnapping 250 civilians is also a pretty good point.
Are you voting for Hamas?
I'm not voting for
No.
Hamas.
So then why was that relevant to bring up?
Because you have to.
You're not. Well, I'm so confused. We're
Because
talking
that's
about you
the whole
voting
war.
for Donald Trump or not,
What do
right?
you think the war in Israel-Palestine was about? Isn't this what the war is about?
Wait, the fact that you aren't able to like literally see any broader context, right, to this is actually like very sad.
Well,
Right,
what do you mean by I can't see a broader context? We haven't
you
discussed it.
understand the broader.
I started bringing it up, and you right away said, "Oh, are you voting for
October
Hamas?"
7th?
That's the only
October
context.
7th is not the beginning of this conflict.
October 7th is not the beginning of this conflict, but it is the beginning of this war, is it not?
You can say that, but that doesn't at all change anything that I'm saying. That's like that.
It doesn't change what you're saying. It does have an
That's like
impact.
not acknowledging the reason why Putin invaded Ukraine, right? Like you can understand that like the aggressor in this conflict is easily identified as Russia. The same ways you can identify the aggressor in this conflict is easily identified as Israel, given that they are a settler colonial state.
So your opinion is that Israel is the aggressor in this conflict.
Absolutely.
How so?
The colonial state.
Can you,
The difference in treatment in terms of rights recognized from Palestinians to Israelis, they're not taking them into account in terms of the Abraham Accords, the ownership of like the Golan Heights, like after the annexation,
so
the settler colonial regions within the context of the West Bank, right, where they're engaging in settler violence.
So you agree that October 7th was an appropriate response?
No, I'm not. I don't
So
agree
do
with
you
the killing of
condemn
it.
Hamas?
I disagree with the killing of innocent civilians,
So
whether
do you condemn Hamas?
they're Israeli or Palestinian.
Got it. So do you condemn Hamas?
Yes.
So how do you propose Hamas be
Do you condemn the IDF killing innocent Palestinians?
I condemn any individual IDF soldier that
Why? So then, why would you be against someone saying that about Hamas?
because Hamas, it's not the individual.
Okay. Oh, okay. So then you are only willing to apply that reasoning to Hamas. If you're willing to apply that reasoning to Hamas, also apply it to the IDF, right?
So I'll
To the
explain
Israeli
the
state
difference.
government.
But the 10 soldiers that raped a Hamas prisoner were actually arrested. Have you seen Hamas arresting all the people that went into Israel? No, you didn't see that. Do you see Hamas dressing their soldiers by identifying military uniform? No, they dress as civilians, and then they have complaints. I don't see the.
Wait, are you saying that the Israeli state government has always held their soldiers accountable for war crimes, or their politicians accountable for war crimes?
I'm saying that whenever a situation.
No. Okay, so Benjamin Netanyahu is
Well,
literally
I
a
didn't
war
even you didn't
criminal.
even let me answer that.
who's-
You asked me a
wait,
question, and then you didn't let me-
because it was a rhetorical question.
Okay, so what's the point you were going to make?
That
Sorry,
like
thinking
they
about-
are war criminals, right? And they actively have not been held accountable, and that Israel is
How are
literally
they war
limiting from
criminals?
as designated by the ICJ and the ICC.
Okay, do they have the authority to?
So wait, do you think Putin's a war criminal?
Honestly, I haven't looked into that war, but based
You
on
haven't looked into that? Wow, dude, that's insane.
Hold
Wow,
on,
he
let me
just
answer the question.
he doesn't know if Putin's a war criminal, chat.
Can I answer the question based on the
Well, I mean, it's an obvious yes. It's an obvious yes. He's a war criminal. I'll ask you, who designates Putin as a war criminal? And then the same committee, the same group that designates Putin as a war criminal, also designates Benjamin Netanyahu as a war
So
criminal.
I was about to say that I haven't looked into the war, but based on Putin marching into another country, he is a war criminal. But you didn't care to listen to the rest of it. You just said, "Oh, he didn't do his research, so he's for sure he's going to say something rhetorical." No, that's not what I said. I said I didn't do the information, but from the information I know, it does result in him being a war criminal because you can't just march into another country, which is exactly what Palestine did, right?
No, it's exactly
No.
what Israel is doing.
Israel marched into Gaza
With the United States. Yes, they are ethnically cleansing the Palestinian people,
that's after
and
Gaza
they are
marched.
literally they are colonizing the land.
Hold on. Who was the aggressor?
The
in the
United
war
States
happening
is
right now?
ethnically cleansing the Palestinian people and colonizing the land.
The United States.
That's
isn't
what Trump
ethnically
Gaza
cleansing
is.
right
That's
now.
what
That's
Trump
a proposed
Gaza is.
plan that hasn't begun in any way, shape, or form. It was a plan that has been proposed.
It's
and has not
been a
been-
plan that's been proposed. Shut the fuck up. You obviously understand in this scenario that's the ethnic cleansing and then colonization of that land.
Just like every other country that formed and
Oh, and you're okay with that? You're okay with
No. I didn't
Wow,
say
you're
I was
okay with
but I was
ethnically
saying,
cleansing
if
a
we're gonna
native
do this-
population. Wait, no, hold up. You're okay with ethnically cleansing a native population and then settling that land? Okay, how is that any different from what Russia is doing in Ukraine?
So I'll tell you what, I'm not in favor of ethnically cleansing, and you're going to argue now. So how did you say every other country?
So then you disagree with Donald Trump's position. Do you agree?
I will say that I disagree on a part of his plan. Yes.
A part of his plan. That's just a
Yeah.
part of the plan. That's his whole plan. His whole
No, that's
plan
not
was
his
to
whole plan.
ethnically cleanse the Palestinian population and then resettle it as Trump Gaza for real estate development. What are you talking about, bro?
Right, but in the plan, he also brought up that. So I'll tell you what, in regards to this part of the plan, I would be in favor of the people of Gaza having a choice on this. Maybe if the people of Gaza want this, maybe they should get it. Why should we
Okay.
have a say? Maybe they should have the say. And I do think that they're not in control. Hamas is in control of Gaza, and they wouldn't let the civilians in Gaza actually have an opinion on this matter, as they don't allow people in Gaza. There was a civilian, and there was plenty of stories where they were upset for Hamas for being in between civilians because that caused a lot of civilian casualties, but they don't care. And
Yeah, the same thing is true about. There are also protests against the Israeli state government for committing a genocide in Palestine.
100%.
Oh, okay. So then why don't you acknowledge that? Why don't you acknowledge that? Why are we not? Why are we only acknowledging it when there are anti-Hamas rallies, right? But we don't acknowledge it when there are anti-Israeli state government rallies. Why can't we acknowledge it in both scenarios?
Because in the IDF situation, there aren't civilian casualties due to their
There
position.
are. There
No,
are.
No.
You're just lying. You're just totally lying. You're saying that there's no civilian casualties? You're just lying.
Oh, that's not what I said. I said there's no civilian casualties due to their position in the war. And as I'm
Yes, there is. You just are totally fucking
okay,
lying.
so let's discuss. Let's discuss this.
You're
Let's
totally
discuss.
fucking lying.
I understand this. Let's discuss it. The position the IDF has that we should have a war with Gaza, right? That's their position. Now there are civilian casualties from the Palestinian side, right?
Mostly women and children.
Got it. Now the Hamas, they're actively hiding amongst the civilians. Now the civilians who want to protest that are killed.
Can I actually give you a hypothetical real quick?
Yes.
If the cartel came into the United States and they killed American citizens, would it be justified for us to drone strike like the cartel, right, in Mexico, killing a bunch of Mexican innocent civilians? Mostly women and children?
If we were just shooting at the women and children, that would not be justified. If they
Wait. No, if we were to kill the same amount of Mexican civilians that we've killed, right, in the context of Palestine, would it be justified?
in the context of Israel-Palestine,
Yeah.
According to every single war that has been going on in the world in the last 100 years, yes.
You would be okay with killing that many Mexicans, innocent civilians?
Would you? Are you against
See,
every
this
single war?
this is exactly why. I think there are absolutely many wars that I'm against. Most wars I am absolutely against. Because
Okay,
there's
so-
been- listen, because there's been literally killings of innocent civilians. If you are justifying the killings of innocent civilians in the way that you are doing so, how is that any different from someone who's justifying Hamas doing so?
I'm justifying the ratio of combatants. To
And again, wait, Hamas could claim the same thing.
how, but their ratio is not justifiable at
Their
all.
ratio, what is their ratio? Do you even know? Are you even familiar?
From the 12, let's see, the 1,200 people that died on October 7th, what percentage of that were combatants?
I'd have to ask you for that information, right? I'm not talking just that. We're talking about the entirety of every event. You wouldn't just look at one day for the IDF. I can point to multiple days for the IDF where there were higher proportionalities of innocent civilians killed.
Right, but we're going to look
Comparative
at
to combatants.
but we're going to look at the complete number. We're not going to look at.
I just want to clarify: if most people killed in Palestine are women and children, isn't that at least indicative of the fact that, like, you're okay with more women and children dying than combatants?
But that's not the case.
That's actually the case. If it's mostly women and children, you're
By
okay
mostly,
with
you mean
most of the
51%
people.
or
Wait,
you mean
wait.
75%?
You're okay if we were to drone strike Mexico and most of the people who die are women and children.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'll tell you, if that's our only way of getting rid of a threat that's killing us, do you have a different?
Do you see what he's applying this? This is
Hold
what they're
on,
going to do.
Do you have a different? Do
Hold
you
on.
have
I just want to clarify. This is what they're going to do. This is what they're going to do. They're going to start drone striking Mexico, right? If something like this happened, they would start drone striking Mexico. And I mean, obviously, there would prompt a response, but the response would not be to drone strike them and to lead to as many innocent civilians that have died in the context of this conflict. You are going to do is whatever you possibly fucking could to reduce, right, there being civilian death. And that is not drone striking civilian areas. Okay? Drone striking civilian areas is not trying to reduce civilian death. Now, let me say thank you to a few people real quick. Sabrina, thank you so much. I really appreciate the $2. Thank you so much. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. It depends on how well it does. It depends on whether or not we get enough funding for everything, to be honest, and if we're going to go on tour to other places. Cole with the $200 for have a great day, dude. Can we get some W's for Cole in the comment section right now? Thank you so much for the $200. Thank you so much on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much. Can we get some W's for Cole in the comment section right now? Thank you so much. Chuck, thank you for the $2. Thank you so much. And Arena, thank you so much. I really appreciate the $20. Thank you so much for Hey Parker. Thank you for everything that you do. You're making a difference and you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that as well as Sadra. Thank you so much for the $2.
No? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the hypothetical you provided, where Mexico did what Hamas did on October 7th, right? They are obviously a threat.
Not Mexico, the cartel.
The cartel, right? So they are obviously a big threat to the United States when you have that number of people killed and taken hostage in one day, right? So at what point, what's the price of our security? At what point would you say, okay, you know what? They're hiding behind civilians. It's one of the most condensed areas on Earth, so we can't bomb them without.
Wait. So now you care about like safety after you voted for a guy that released violent criminals in the country who pled guilty and admitted to violently assaulting police officers on January 6th, who undermined our rule of law, our court system, our constitution, who caused violence on January 6th, whether you like it or not. And he absolutely did.
What a pivot!
Do you not acknowledge any of that?
Honestly, I wasn't even listening because I was so shocked you brought that up as we were discussing this topic, and you didn't have an answer to the price of security, so you brought up a different issue with Donald Trump. Let's go back to where we're at.
I like how you didn't acknowledge that you brought up security, and I said you don't actually in any context care about security as a response to the position that you brought up. You act like it's a pivot, but it was a response to something that you brought up. That is dishonest. That is absolutely, listen, that is absolutely and totally dishonest for you to not acknowledge that it was totally on point with something that you addressed in terms of security. I'm sorry that you didn't like the response. I'm sorry that you didn't have a response to what I said, so you just wanted to call it a pivot. But I actively addressed directly what you said in terms of security.
You bring up a hypothetical.
That's not a hypothetical. I brought up things that actually
talking
happened.
about the Mexico scenario, bro.
Wait, that's a hypothetical earlier. I didn't just bring that up.
Right, so I was answering to that hypothetical.
Well, listen, you said that I pivoted, right? And I was addressing, right, things that Donald Trump did that you didn't give a fuck about in terms of security. So if you didn't give a fuck about security, why are you bringing it up here? That's what I'm saying.
Because we were discussing a hypothetical scenario. It wasn't actually the security of our country. It was a scenario of the cartel walking into our country and doing that. So I was addressing the security of our country in the hypothetical scenario. Does that make sense?
I know, but you don't actually care about security. So why are you bringing it up?
That's a different conversation, but we're talking about the hypothetical because I'm trying to prove to you what Israel is doing in the war, but you want to pivot to security in January. You brought up a hypothetical scenario, and I answered you on it, and I brought up the word security. So you went and you brought up January 6th or whatever you brought up, which I'm fully down to discuss, but I was answering you your hypothetical scenario. If you want to discuss something else now, we could do that.
I can absolutely. We did, and I was just showing you that when you bring up security in terms of this context, you don't actually think it's relevant, right? Because it is the case that literally you didn't think it was relevant when actually voting for the candidate that you're talking about for president of the United States. That's a very relevant thing towards a conversation where we're talking about which political candidate you voted for in the very first place.
Okay, I hear why your argument on the relevance of bringing up security is, but I would argue that
imagine saying it's a pivot in a conversation about who's a better presidential candidate to talk about the presidential candidate in terms of irrelevancy to what you view as security that you're applying in certain arguments within the context of a debate about which presidential candidate is better. Like, dude, the amount of fucking reaching that you're engaging in to deflect away and not address the points that I brought up is actually comical.
So if you wanted to debate if that was a pivot or not, I'll answer you on that. But you might argue that I'm not addressing the security. So which one do you choose I respond to? Should I respond to the part if it's a pivot or not, or do you want me to respond to the hypothetical, or do you want me to respond if I care about the security of this country?
You can respond to both if you have enough brain cells to do so.
Okay, so first I'll respond to the pivot part, if it was a pivot or not. You brought up a hypothetical scenario of the cartel walking into America and doing what Hamas did. Now, I answered you that what price would we put on this country in this hypothetical scenario, because I'm not actually addressing the security of this country. We're discussing the security of Israel because this is a hypothetical scenario, right? So
if you view, we're talking about what you view as correct in terms of establishing security within the context of a particular country. So how is that not relevant when we're referencing the security of Israel?
Because we clearly were discussing the Palestine-Gaza conflict.
I understand, but the way that you apply it in this context, especially within the context of America, is very much relevant towards how you see it to be applicable in the context of the situation.
You applied it in that context, not me. You brought up that.
Yeah. I'm sorry. It's too much critical thought for you. My bad. I shouldn't have thought that you can think that critically.
Is that all you could come up with why it wasn't a pivot? That it was too much critical thinking? You didn't bring a relevant argument.
I've responded to all of these points and you didn't listen to a single part. You can watch it
No,
back
I
on
did.
YouTube later.
I did.
If you want to, you can watch this conversation back on YouTube later and see how much you got embarrassed.
I'm very clear about how this conversation went down, and you argued that it wasn't a pivot bringing up national security when we're discussing a hypothetical of the Palestine-Gaza war. You
brought up security, and I said that you don't give a shit about security, so why are you applying it in this scenario? Why is it relevant to you in terms of determining whether or not like a particular action is justified here? Because you didn't give a fuck about security when it comes to your own country.
How did you come to the conclusion that I don't care about security?
Because Donald Trump literally undermines security within practically every respect with our allies. He undermines security in terms of literally being a convicted criminal held civilly liable, sexually abusing women. He violates the security of women, not only in terms of bragging about walking in the changing rooms of girls' Miss USA because he quote unquote owns the place to inspect them without their consent, but also right in the context of scenarios where Donald Trump literally brags about grabbing women women by the vagina without asking, or restricting women's access to abortion or the safety of women to literally exist in a society, right, where they have rights over their bodies to make basic types of decisions that they said they should be able to make in terms of vaccines, but apparently bodily autonomy is only relevant whenever it's applicable to like cis men.
Got it. So would you say all these stuff are the same level of national security as October 7th for America?
The same level of national security?
Yeah, would you put that on the same pedestal?
I don't like comparing these types of things, but yes.
But you might not like comparing. But
if anything, I would put it as like these are applicable to more people almost. We're talking about the rights of people in this country. We're talking about grape culture, which affects hundreds of millions of people in this country. We're talking about
you should
decades
define what you mean by national security, because you're confusing rights with national security, two different things. You can't just bring in every argument you have against Trump and just put it on the national security.
We're talking about the amount of people it impacts.
No, we're talking about national security, which would, if the cartel would walk in, we wouldn't.
Do you think protection of rights is not relevant to national security?
It might have a relevance, but I don't think that's what national security is.
I'd never said that's what national security is, but it's relevant to national security.
No, you said you brought that up.
Do you agree that it's relevant to? Do you agree that it's relevant to national security?
I would say it have a relevance. Yeah, I wouldn't say it doesn't have a relevance at all. But that's not what national security is.
I never made that claim. I don't know why you keep
saying that. You did make that claim by bringing that up when I mentioned security for the country regarding the cartel walking into America.
I'm confused what your point is trying to be here.
My point is that I argued that when the cartel walked into this country, in the hypothetical scenario, that would threaten our security. So you brought up, there's no way that you care about security because Donald Trump doesn't care about rights of people. This is the exact point you made. So I went on to make the argument that maybe...
Yeah, I can respond to it that way because that's totally fair to critique your position on the basis of that. But secondly, right, again, I was just using the same point that you were saying, it's a threat to the security, because yes, it is a threat to security to have people who are going to commit violent crimes come across into the country, right? Of course, I would acknowledge that, right? But I'm just saying that same reasoning bites you in the ass.
So The same
Is
reason.
it a legitimate concern? Yeah, in that scenario, absolutely. What you're not taking into account is the type of response is not proportionate, and also doesn't take into account history of why this is the case in the first place, right? So obviously, you should limit the rights violations of Palestinians, and you probably would see a less likely chance where there's going to be conflict within the region. That's just a fact of reality.
100%. That's why I said it's relevant, but I wouldn't define that as national security. So if I were to ask you, let's say rights, you were referring to abortion rights, I'm assuming. Is that right?
Earlier, yeah.
Yeah. So if someone asked you what taking away abortion rights, even Donald Trump hasn't done that and or said he would do that, he would leave that up to the state. But let's
Which
assume
takes away abortion rights.
that would vary state by state, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Is that like okay? Is that like okay to discriminate against rights in certain states? Like you understand that's exactly what the Confederates were arguing, right? They were
I understand.
arguing that it's okay to discriminate against people's rights based upon certain states
I would
like agreeing on that.
I would actually agree on that, but then I would make the argument that that's not security, that's rights. I would not make the argument.
What is
you make
security?
national security? I would define national security as the people in our country being secure to live by the laws of this land.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So then that would mean that their rights are upheld.
No, that would
It would rely upon the fact that their rights are upheld because they are not allowed to live securely within the context of this country if
It
it
would
is
have
the
to
case that
follow
their
the
rights
law.
are not upheld.
they would have to follow the law. Is that what you mean?
Okay, wait. So whatever the law is, you think is justified?
I think that the law should be based off what most of the country wants.
Okay, so if most of the country wanted people to be enslaved, are you saying that should be okay? Or legal?
So obviously that's an absurd thing that I don't think would happen. But if it
No,
were,
no. Like I'll give you an explicit example. The Confederates in certain states in the United States want to make it okay or legal to own people as slaves. Do you think that certain Confederate states should be allowed to do that because they voted on that?
so you're asking in regards to leaving things up to the state.
Yeah.
So no, I don't.
No. Okay. Would you argue that it's pro-slavery to leave it up to the states?
If that were the case, yes, I would argue that.
So you're like pro forcing women to go through pregnancies even if they've been sexually assaulted, because it is the case that you think it should be left up to the states.
So in the context of abortion versus slavery, I do think that slavery is a much more extreme example, and you can't compare that to abortion, where half the country actually agrees on that. It's not as extreme as slavery, and I think you
Wait.
would agree.
I'm giving you an example where in these certain states, half the country believes that slavery should be legal in those certain areas, which is insane and disgusting. So just because half the country believes that doesn't mean that that's a legitimate position. Half the country can believe in things that are horrible.
100%. I don't disagree with that, but yet still, are you saying?
Sadra, thank you so much for the $2. And Fran with the $50. Thank you so much. Get some W's for Fran in the comment section. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. They said, is stealing top secret documents interfering with national security?
The what? Did she ask me? Was that a question referred to me?
They said, is stealing top secret documents interfering with national security?
Stealing. Yes, I would argue that.
Okay, interesting.
I wouldn't put it on the same pedestal as a big percentage of people being killed and taken hostage, but yes, I do think it's a concern in regards to national security. And now we would have to go into an argument: what is stealing? Is the president's other house considered as stealing or not? Well, we could go. I don't know the details on that exactly, but I'm sure it's up for debate. I don't think it's as simple as just
Can you give me a definition of stealing?
Taking something that is not of yours. I would say
Not rightfully yours. Isn't that not what Donald Trump did
taking something,
with classified documents? He took something that was not rightfully his.
but it was rightfully his when he was president, wasn't it?
He was out of office.
Right, but did he take it while he was still in office,
But
or
he
did
didn't. But when he was out of office, he didn't rightfully have it.
right? So he took it.
He said explicitly he would have declassified it if he could have.
Right. So when he took it, he had the right to take it, but he kept it for longer. That's why.
Then he was allowed to take it.
He was accepted for long, right?
Wait, I have a question. If I go get a library book, but then I keep the library book forever, did I steal the library book?
I didn't disagree with the claim that you
I'm
made.
asking, did I steal the library book? I
I would
originally
say-
got it okay in a manner in which I could, but I kept on to it longer than I should have. So did I steal the library book?
So I would ask you this: would you say someone that keeps a library book for
He
longer?
can't answer the question. He can't
Should he
answer
be
if I
arrested?
stole
You
the
answer
fucking
my question.
library book, dude.
You answer: should someone that keeps a library book for longer than allowed should he be arrested?
No.
For longer than allowed should he be arrested? Answer my question.
Can I get an answer to my question first?
I'll answer you, but you have to promise me you'll answer mine.
After you answer my
Right,
question.
got it. Okay. So someone that keeps a library book, is that considered stealing? Yes.
Okay.
Now you answer
so
mine.
so then Donald Trump did steal classified
Oh, whoa!
documents.
You said you were going to answer my question first. You said you were going to answer my question right afterwards.
Well, let me make sure that we get this point written down. Trump did steal classified documents. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So should someone keeping a book from the library longer than allowed be arrested?
No.
Should people who steal be arrested?
Not in all scenarios.
Not in all scenarios. Okay, no problem. What was it? So keep going. So
Like if a kid steals a chocolate bar, should they be arrested?
no, like you said, not in all scenarios.
Yeah, but if you steal classified documents from the federal government, should you be arrested?
Well, in this scenario, he was allowed to have it. He
Wait.
overstayed.
If you steal classified documents from the federal government, should you be arrested?
Just like you answered. Depends which scenario. Just like you answered, I'll answer. Depends which scenario.
Tell me, what does it depend on?
It depends on which scenario. In a scenario where someone was allowed,
In what scenario
Okay,
should it be?
I'll tell you.
Should you not be arrested for stealing federally classified documents?
when you were allowed to have it, but you had it for
Stealing means you're not allowed to have it.
no. We both agreed that you're
What
allowed
is-
to
what
have
is this
something,
guy
and if you
saying?
have it for longer than you're allowed to, it's considered a stealing. Did you not agree? to that?
Yeah. So you
Okay,
agree. That
so-
means
so
you're
it
not
is
allowed to have it.
So it is possible for someone to have something and extend the amount of time he was allowed to have it, and then it could be considered stealing, right?
Okay,
We
so then
agree
here's
on
my
that.
question. If
Go.
you steal federally classified documents, should you be arrested?
So I answered just like you did. Depends on the scenarios, not in all scenarios.
No, here's my answer for this. Yes.
In all scenarios.
Yeah, I'd probably say that you should be arrested, yes.
So should Hillary Clinton be arrested for
If
having-
she stole federally classified documents.
He had it on your emails.
Federally classified documents?
There was
Because here, let me give you an example. This is actually like the set of conditions that they bring up is that like
Okay,
if
let
they
me know.
ask you to give them back because you just had them and you conceal them, then
Hold
you
on,
are-
hold on.
Then
Well,
you are,
well,
let
I
me
didn't get
clarify.
that.
Can I please clarify?
Yeah,
Before
go,
you cut
go.
me off before I mute you because you're
I
cutting
just
me off.
didn't hear it. That's why I asked.
I understand. Yeah, so if it is the case that you didn't know that you had them and they just inform you, yo, make sure to give this back. And then you specifically uphold that and you give it back to them right away, that's fine. You shouldn't be arrested. Right? But if you then try to continue to conceal them, right? And to keep them, even when they've told you to give them back, given that you understand that you have them, then that would be stealing. Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess I would agree to that. That makes sense.
Okay, well, that's what Donald Trump did.
All right. So
That's literally exactly what Donald Trump did.
I just said I would consider it as stealing.
Yeah, so Donald Trump stole classified documents.
Right. So if someone gets a warning from the library that he should return his book, if he doesn't return it, should he be arrested?
If he doesn't return it, well, that's not classified documents. But
I'm
should-
just
should they be-
asking in
should-
regards to stealing.
they should be fined. And that's
Okay,
it.
so I would agree Donald Trump should be fined for that.
Again, there's a distinction between library books and federal classified documents.
That he was allowed to
I
have
do
when he
think
obtained
people
them.
should be arrested if we're talking about federal classified documents. Because
They
it's
were
not a
allowed,
library book. It's not going to be a random library book. It's not a children's book.
right, but they were allowed to have it when they obtained it. They just overstayed their having it,
Again, if it's federal classified documents,
and
They
they
should
were
go to
they
prison.
legally obtained. They were allowed to have it when they
they
obtained
were
it.
not legally continue to have, or they were
Oh,
not
right.
legal. They're not in legal possession.
Right. So he basically overstayed. It's like a late payment, basically.
Again, he knew specifically that he could give it back and he chose not to, and he still decided to contain it and to hide them, right?
Are you saying that he intentionally kept it and didn't return it, as opposed to
Yes.
just? What's your proof of that?
The literal court documents.
What does the court document state that would lead me to believe that he intentionally kept them and didn't?
Literally military, or not military, government officials indicated that Donald Trump stored them and then refused to return classified documents, like when asked, and that's from the indictment. I can send you an AP News article. It's titled "Donald Trump stored, showed off, and refused to return classified documents." Indictment says.
Got it. So I think that would be defined as stealing. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay, and is that a threat to our national security?
Yes, I do believe that's a threat to our
Okay.
national security. Yes.
Okay. That's just one thing. That's just we were just proving what the guest said there.
You didn't prove anything. All you proved is that I do care about national security, which goes back.
You
to
said that it
the
wasn't
point.
stealing. You said that it wasn't stealing. I proved to you that it was stealing.
No, I didn't say it wasn't stealing. I said which scenario? Didn't I say that?
You're such a
Didn't
little liar.
I say it depends
You're
which
such a little
scenario?
liar.
I said that.
You're such a little liar. You, at the beginning of this conversation, said it was stealing.
Did I not say it depends on which scenario? Did I not say that?
Later in the conversation, but the first part of the conversation, you did say that.
And
I
what
think
context?
$2.
And what context did I say that it was not stealing?
Would you like me to play back the video?
No, because I could tell you pretty clearly how I said. I said
I can play back the video because I have this on YouTube.
okay. If you choose to do that, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
It's just extra. You did do that. Everyone in the comment section can say that you did that.
Well, I wouldn't take the comment section as a credible source.
What do you mean? They literally watched it happen. We're talking about
And
what
I
happened.
literally said it.
Okay, and there are
So
thousands of people
what
that
gives
listen
them more
to
credibility than me?
it because there's thousands of people that saw it.
So each individual, how do they have more credibility than me?
Because they are recognizing the same scenario as you. I would take more people who witnessed the same event over you just saying it. It's not a children's book.
Right.
Well, can I get an answer to my question first?
I'll answer you, but you have to promise me.
After you, it was not rightfully his.
But so in the context of abortion versus slavery, I do think that slavery is I don't disagree with that, but yet still, are you saying?
Phaedra, thank you so much for the two. So,
You really have to follow on, right?
wait, I have a question. If I go get a library book,
Question referred to me.
they said, is stealing top secret documents interfering with national security?
Stealing. Yes, I would argue that.
Okay, interesting.
I wouldn't put it on the same pedestal as a big percentage of people being killed and taken hostage, but yes, I do think it's a concern in regards to national security. And now we would have to go into an argument: what is stealing? Is the president's other house considered as stealing or not? Well, we could go. I don't know the details on that exactly, but I'm sure it's up for debate. I don't think it's as simple as just
Can you give me a definition of stealing?
Taking something that is not of yours, I would say.
Not rightfully yours. Isn't that not what Donald Trump did?
Taking something
With classified documents, he took something that was not rightfully his.
but it was rightfully his when he was president, wasn't it?
He was out of office. Is that not you explicitly arguing that it was not stealing?
I'm sorry. Can you have the time stamp? Can you replay it 5 seconds? The last 5 seconds again?
Okay. I don't know why I need to. I just played it.
I'll explain it because it was a long thing. You played back from like 3 minutes, and I couldn't. Or not. Well, we could go. I don't know the details on that exactly. Is the president's other house considered as stealing or not? Well, we could go. I don't know the details on that exactly, but I'm sure it's up for debate. I don't think it's as simple as just.
Can you give me a definition of stealing?
Taking something that is not of yours, I would say.
Not rightfully yours. Isn't that not what Donald Trump did?
Taking something
With classified documents, he took something that was not rightfully his.
but it was rightfully his when he was president, wasn't it?
He was out of office.
Right, but did he take it while he was still in office,
But when he was out of office, he didn't rightfully have it.
Right, so he took it.
He said explicitly he would have declassified it if he could have.
Right. So when he took it, he had the right to take it, but he kept it for longer. That's why
And he was allowed to take it. So
he wasn't kept it for
if,
long.
wait,
Right.
wait, wait, I have a question. If I go get a library book, but then I keep the library book forever, did I steal the library book?
I didn't disagree with the claim that
I'm
you
asking,
made.
did I steal the library book?
I
I
would
originally
say-
got it okay in
Are
a
we
manner
good?
in which I could, but I kept on to it longer than I should have. So did I steal the library book?
So I would ask you this: would you say someone that keeps a library book
He
for
can't
longer?
answer the question. He can't
Would
answer
you
if I
be
stole the
arrested? You answer
fucking
my
library
question.
book, dude.
You answer. Should someone that keeps a library book for longer than allowed, should he be arrested? Answer my question.
Is that enough for you to believe that like you were essentially arguing that?
I absolutely did not state that Donald Trump did not steal these documents. Never in the conversation did I state, and you know that you played through 5 minutes and you were looking
That
for
was
something.
not
but
5 minutes.
3 minutes, and you did not find anything because I specifically asked you the question in response to the question you asked me, and you said that you can't answer my question. So I went ahead and said I'll answer your question if you answer mine, and then I answered that I would classify that as stealing. And I'll ask.
But in the beginning of the conversation, you were saying you would have to argue that it was stealing or not, and you'd kind of lean to the position that it's not stealing.
I said that it was up for debate if someone held something for longer than he is allowed to, if that is.
And what did you say
defined as
right after
stealing.
that? What did you say right after that?
What I said right after that, I don't remember. What was the conversation? You told me.
I just played it twice. Do I need to play it for a third
Right, so
time?
you asked me if someone has something from the library longer than he is allowed. Is he
That's
allowed?
not the point of the conversation. I'm talking about prior to that.
Bro, I'm sorry if I don't remember the order of the conversation. You can ask me anything. I'll probably respond the same thing I answered then. I don't think I changed my position anywhere throughout this argument.
Okay, so at the beginning, what did you say right after? Oh my God.
Beginning after, bro. I don't know. There's
I'm
no
gonna go
timestamps
insane.
on
You
this
know what?
conversation.
I just realized that there's nothing that's gonna change your mind.
No.
I just played it twice for you.
Right. So we came to the conclusion of what? What after this whole argument? What did we come to the conclusion?
You're not a genuine actor.
Is this no wrong? That's not the conclusion we came to. We came to the
That's the
conclusion.
conclusion I've come to.
Didn't I state that it was a threat to national security if Trump held those documents?
After the arguments we provided, but originally you were arguing that it wasn't even stealing. You were saying that it's up for debate, right, and that it is the case that you were like you think that there was a good argument for it not being considered stealing, right, and that he rightfully had it.
I said that keeping something longer than you're allowed to, whether that's stealing or not, is up for debate. I wasn't talking about the specific example of Donald Trump where he was warned to give it back, which we then went in to argue about. But that was my initial claim was just that the idea of someone keeping something for longer than he's allowed to is considered as stealing or not. And that would you say that that's always
Do you
stealing?
agree that's stealing?
Um,
In the context I
as
brought
you
it up?
answered, as you answered before, I think it depends on which scenarios. I think in the case of
in Donald Trump's scenario, did he steal them?
I already answered that I do believe that was stealing. After he was warned, then I
was
would
a
consider-
national security threat. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is it like a security threat to like violate women's rights or to try to undermine the Constitution or like the rule of law or a court system?
So you said a few things. Give me one. Because women assaulting a woman and January 6th is two different things. Which one are you presenting? But before you do that, I want to go back
Would you
and
like
now
to just pick one?
I would love to do that. But before that, we got into argument for a reason, right? What was the reason we got into the argument? And I'll explain you if you don't remember.
This guy doesn't
because I do
respond to what I
remember.
say. It tells you.
We came from a different argument. I want to go back to the point that I was making, which led us to the argument of the library book. There was a point trying to be made. And if you don't remember that point, I'll remind you because you said, I don't care about national security. And your proof to that was because I was going to say that Donald Trump.
No, we
started
got to that because someone sent me a donation asking you a question. Nice,
Why
nice recollection of our conversation.
Why did that person ask the question? Because it was in regards to if I care about national security or not. Because you claimed I didn't care about national security after I brought up security regarding the Mexican cartel.
Okay. Would you like to provide an argument, or would you like to just sit here and talk about the conversation that we're having?
No, I would like to go back and prove my point. Why and you still didn't disqualify why it's not right the way Israel's retaliating to Gaza, because when I brought up the point that America would have to, you brought up a point that, let's say the cartel came in and America bombed and it was killing a lot of Mexicans. I asked you a question: what price do you put on security? And that's when you asked, do you care about security? You don't care about security because dot dot dot. So now once we
What price do I put
clear-
on security? A lot. I would put a huge price on security. But like what you're not
Right.
saying is that I don't think it's okay to justify the deaths of innocent women and children in Palestine because of what you were arguing, though. Like you're arguing that the deaths of innocent women and children happening to a higher rate than combatants is justified.
I'd
So
say
I
that
asked you if that same thing was true about us killing innocent Mexican civilians. Would you be okay with that?
And I said that if comparable to every single war, then it is an acceptable ratio if you look at every single war.
So again, in that scenario, you'd be okay with killing more Mexican women and children than killing people who are combatants.
If that was the price of our national security, yes.
Yeah. And what out of
Would
national
you disagree?
security? What,
Would you disagree?
What in terms of national security has this gotten them?
You're referring to Israel now, I'm assuming.
Mhm.
They're trying to eradicate Hamas, so they don't just march into their country and kill people.
Did they eradicate Hamas?
I don't think that big
So
portion.
then, so then
they
what?
completed.
So then what did they get?
They killed, I think, 20,000 of Hamas, but I think there's still a lot of them left. So do you
So
propose to just leave Hamas the way it is and just hope it doesn't happen again?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I was saying specifically is if you were going to actually hold Israel accountable for the war crimes that they've committed in the context of Gaza and Palestine, and especially within the context of the West Bank, well, then it would be the case that there would be a reduction in the likelihood of conflict between these particular areas and a reduction in the likelihood of Hamas even being the acting government in that particular area because of anti-Hamas protests that would very much be likely to occur given the fact that there would be nothing that Hamas is providing for the particular area. So the way that you actually get liberalization and like progression within the area is by actually holding Israel accountable, right, and recognizing the state of Palestine.
I hear your opinion, but that's not a fact. That's just your opinion, and it's not your family that was kidnapped or killed. And I would beg to argue that would not be your position if it was.
There are plenty of people within Israel that are very critical of the Israeli state government, even about them getting the hostages back and about that not being effective in terms of their process. So I would absolutely love to get hostages back, but when you're talking about hostages, the fact that the conversation is never about how many Palestinian hostages there are is absolutely disgusting. The fact that the conversation is only about one side having hostages is disgusting when there are more Palestinian hostages as well.
What hostages are in Israel? What Palestinian hostages?
You don't think there are any Palestinian hostages? I can give you numbers from the Israeli state government that show you there are more Palestinian hostages. What are you talking about?
You mean prisoners?
What's the distinction between hostage and prisoner?
A prisoner is someone that's taken into prison because they committed a crime. A hostage is someone that's innocent and is taken away just for that.
What crime did the Palestinians commit that are currently
if you
as
give me
hostages?
if you give me a specific person that's being held in prison, I can.
You don't think there are any hostages?
Are you? What you're arguing is? I think
you, is
no
Israel holding any Palestinian hostages?
I think they're holding Palestinian prisoners.
Can you answer the question? Is Israel?
No.
No? You're going to sit there and deny that. Do you want to put money on this?
How would you
recognized by the international community as hostages?
International.
Do you think, so you don't think the international community acknowledges any Palestinian hostages?
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say that. If I agree, the international community would define a certain prisoner as being a hostage. That's not what I agreed on. I said that I disagree that Israel holds hostages, not that a certain classification of what's the difference between a prisoner and a hostage.
Okay, can you define hostage?
Hostage, I would define a hostage as someone that's being held for no reason and released only on a given demand. That wasn't a perfect definition, but pretty much.
So there are no Palestinians held without reason?
I don't think the Israeli military goes around and just collects Palestinian people for no reason. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
So if the Israeli state government said that they did have some hostages, then would you agree? Because you know there have been hostage swaps, right?
There have been prisoner swaps, you mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Prisoners for hostages.
Oh, okay.
And my proof to that would be how
Oh,
come
okay,
the
okay,
ratio.
okay. So not hostage swaps, prisoner to hostage swaps. Okay. So then, based upon the definition of prisoner that you provided, couldn't couldn't Hamas just define all of the hostages they have as prisoners?
I would ask what crime did they commit
They would say the
to
same thing that you just said, right? They would
that.
say that they would say that they believe they did something wrong, right? You would claim that like you believe that they did something wrong.
Okay, then I would ask. I would say I think you're disingenuous, and my proof to you being
Really? Wait,
disingenuous. Hold on, I have proof
wait.
for them being
I just want to be
disingenuous.
clear. You know that like a lot of these sentiments are religious, right? And a lot of these religious individuals believe that practically everyone's committed a crime to their religion. So based
Right, but
upon your notion of what a crime is, right, they could claim the exact same thing to
right,
justify
but
them holding hostages, which is an insane view. You agree with me that's an insane view. So then why don't you hold it to your same position that you just said?
because I don't believe that Hamas. According to your argument, you believe that Hamas is right because they're just taking prisoners, right?
I do not believe Hamas. I told you already I condemn what Hamas has
Right,
done. I
but right
condemn
now
the
you're
killing of
making the
innocent
argument.
people, right? And what
But
you can't tell me is that you condemn the killing of innocent Palestinians. You can't tell me that.
you can't tell me that you don't accept Hamas because you literally just told me they could
I
define
explicitly
hostages as
said how many
prisoners.
times in this conversation that I condemn Hamas?
So that's inconsistent with what you're saying now.
How is
You
that
could say that
inconsistent with what I'm saying?
because you're claiming that if that these people could be these hostages could be defined as prisoners, and in that case, Hamas would be right.
I'm saying based upon the same definition that you're providing, it gives you a justification for Hamas's actions, which I think is ridiculous. I said it was insane.
So what I was arguing, what I was gonna say, which I didn't get to, is I don't think that Hamas can make that argument because they're disingenuous. How do I know that? That's just
If you
a way.
don't think
How would
Hamas
I
should be
prove
able, if you
that?
don't think Hamas should be able to make that argument, well, then you shouldn't be able to make that argument either.
So are you saying that you can't make the argument that someone is a prisoner?
What I'm arguing is that you
Uh,
can't base your definition of hostage on that definition. Otherwise, right, you're going to be justifying, right, Hamas saying that they don't have any hostages, which would be insane.
so how would you define a prisoner?
How would I
What's
define
a prisoner?
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so well, we would base it upon the definition again in terms of crimes and definition in terms of these sorts of things in terms of our moral law. We would base it upon that, right? We wouldn't base
Our
it
moral law,
upon.
you mean the
Hold on,
country
listen,
that's arresting
listen.
them?
Can I please explain? Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah. So if you base it upon like a moral law that is secular, well, then you don't have any of these religious fundamentalist arguments to respond to because you're not predicating it off of a religion.
Got it. So can you point me to a Palestinian that was arrested because of a religious law?
Religious law. I'm saying that like you're basing it on religion, correct?
No.
You don't have a position based upon your ethics are not based on religion.
No, I'm saying that the Palestinians being arrested are not based on religious law. They're based on just human law.
You don't think Israeli government? You don't think it's a Jewish state?
That throwing rocks on a soldier and being arrested.
Do you think there's a separation of church and state in Israel?
I'm not sure actually. I don't know. That's not an opinion question. That's a fact question.
Okay, well
I don't know.
then you should probably look into it because that's the relevant point to what I'm saying.
Right, but
I'm just saying that these different governments they base it on religion. So then obviously when I'm prescribing this based upon religion, right, their arguments are going to be applicable both sides, and yet you don't think that's a legitimate basis. So you got to have something that's not fundamentally not predicated off of religion to make that type of claim. And if you
Right.
base it on a secular definition, well then obviously they would have hostages.
So are you arguing that the Palestinians being taken prisoner / hostage by Israeli army are being arrested based on religious laws and not just human laws that every country has?
I'm saying there are plenty of people who are Palestinian hostages, right, that Israel is holding.
Can you point me to? I didn't hear of a single.
Do I have to give you a name of a Palestinian that's a hostage? Like,
No, my question would be.
I don't think you would ask me for names of. I don't know any of the names of the Israelis that are held hostage, but yet I know that there's hostages.
I don't need a name. I'm just looking for I didn't hear of a single scenario where the Israeli military just walked up to a person and just arrested them for being Muslim. I didn't hear that.
Okay, well, you don't think that there's any Palestinians held without trial, held without due process?
Oh, that's a different question.
If they're held without due process, that's literally what I'm arguing. That's hostages under your view.
So you agree they were arrested for a reason, but you're saying they didn't have due process.
Wait, that's not the claim. I just said that they were without due process. In my sense, would be without good reason.
Right, but I'm saying they weren't just snatched off the street. They did something. They threw a
Do you
rock.
think Palestinians in the West Bank are treated under the same law as Israelis?
No.
Okay, isn't that apartheid?
I think there's. I do think that's apartheid, but I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
Israel.
So you agree that Israel is committing apartheid?
No, I don't think they have another choice.
You don't think? They. So why don't they designate that they're both under the same law?
Again, why don't they?
Wait. Do you think the apartheid is justified?
I'll be honest, I'm not sure, but based on
Wow,
my knowledge,
not sure is crazy. That I'm gonna kick you for that. That's a fucking insane take. You saying that like
Wow.
you're not sure if apartheid is wrong is like exactly the problem I think exists, and exactly the type of red line that we need to draw. Jesus Christ, what do you mean you don't know if apartheid is bad? If you agree that there's an apartheid, how could you sit there and defend that? I feel like half the time you're like trying to determine, like you're trying to show them that it's an apartheid. But if he accepts that it's an apartheid and he's like, oh, I just don't know if an apartheid is bad. He's like, they have to do the apartheid. No, you can treat them equally. You don't have to treat them unequally in terms of rights. That's insane. Absolutely getting kicked for that. That's like crazy. That's such a crazy thing to do. Like, what the fuck, dude? What is up with all this shit, dude? Everyone, if you're on YouTube, do make sure to like the stream. It should help send it out to more people. I would really appreciate that. I'd really appreciate that. Let's get this next person up here. Only do send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. We are only looking for some debates. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Give it a second, everyone. Do tap that screen. Do share the live. If you want to support me, as always, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, link to in the bio. Plus, you can support me over your YouTube Super Chat. I would really appreciate y'all. I'd really appreciate that. There's been so many bans on TikTok recently where everything has not been working correctly. So, yeah, it's been really unfortunate. Hopefully, we can get some people up here to get some debates going. Someone's saying in the chat that this person wants to be Dean so bad. Even tries to copy his mannerisms. There's no way this person's real. Hey, Bruce, can you accept that invite? Bruce, what do you mean I want to copy Dean? What are you talking about? Are you okay? These people are not real, dude. They must be new here, dude. One, Dean and I are literally friends. Two, if you don't remember, I've been around here for longer than Dean. Just going to let you know, buddy. Just going to let you know. Parker's pre-Dean. Absolutely diabolical that you say that, honestly. Actually, we're just going to kick anyone that has webcam capacities. Practically everyone. For some reason, I feel like I can add this person up.
Hello?
Yo, what's up? How old are you?
I'm 18.
I don't think so. So this next person up here, only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates. Jamie, thank you so much for the $10. Thank you so much, Jamie. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jamie. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Ivy, thank you for the $2. Jessica, thank you for the $5. Lindsay, thank you for the $5. Thank you so much. Amanda with the $50. Thank you so much. Can we get some W's for Amanda in the comment section for the $50 for thank you for being an amazing human? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Can we get W's for Amanda in the comment section right now? Thank you so much, Amanda. W's for Amanda in the comments right now. That's unbelievable. And then, and Azra, thank you so much. I appreciate the $5. Thank you. Thank you. If you're on YouTube, do make sure to like the stream, everyone. It should help send it out to more people. Please, everyone, only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. I'm sorry, everyone. Do you have a camera? Today, I'm just like not accepting people up that have camera, like access on their account. So I'm sorry, everyone. There's just been too many trolls recently. Too many trolls. Yo, what's up? How old are you? All right, let's get this next person up here. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Please, everyone, only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
22.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
I did.
Why so?
I think he was good for the economy.
You're trolling. Leo, thank you for the $5. Thank you so much, Leo. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Ramar, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Parker. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, let's get this next person up here. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Oh, they have camera. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, everyone. If you have a camera, I'm probably not going to accept you. I'm really sorry. All right, do give it a second, y'all. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates. Answer when. Make sure to send a guest request. Answer when. I'd love to debate you. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We're going to start getting some people up here in a second. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. Just looking for some debates, y'all. Oh, this person has a camera. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you have a camera, chat, I'm trying to be safe today. I am really trying to be safe, you know. There we go. Yo, what's up? How old are you? Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Just looking for some debates. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. I'm sorry, anyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate Hannah. Thank you for the $20. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Hannah. That is incredibly kind of you. Don't worry. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. W Hannah in the chat. Thank you, Hannah. And Shay, thank you for the $10. Thank you so much. That is diabolical. Alrighty, let's get this next person up here. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
Nope.
How old are you?
Say it again. You cut out. I'm 24.
Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Okay, why so?
Why did you cry like a little bitch on TikTok Live
What do you mean?
when you're like were bawling your eyes out like a little bitch?
Are you talking about the time where I cried on TikTok Live because we raised $26,000 for like a friend that has cancer in a
Oh
day?
well, people posted about it being about Harry Sisson. So
Okay. Well, you should look more into that type of stuff. I'm not gonna debate some right-wing person that's just gonna be a crazy fuck about that type of shit. So,
are you friends?
regardless,
Are you friends with Harry still?
no. No, would you
Oh,
like to
why?
debate me on anything like meaningful?
Why aren't you friends with Harry?
You can go check out my thoughts on this, like over on the Discord. You can check out my thoughts on this on all the videos that were posted about it. I've talked about this plenty of times. If you would like to engage in an actual meaningful debate with me, I'd love to have that
So
conversation.
you're
Otherwise, it
admitting
seems
Harry
like
sucks.
yes. Now, would you like to engage with what I have to say here?
What about Chris? Does he suck?
Yes. Can you like
Oh,
actually
nice,
engage with what I have
cool.
to say, or
That's all I wanted to hear was you
okay,
admit that because I hate
okay,
them too.
okay, cool. I don't know why you just instead of actually arguing or debating me, you just decided to do that.
I can say whatever the fuck I want.
As if those thoughts aren't like already like
I can say
in
whatever the fuck I
public.
want. I can say whatever I want.
You actually can't.
Yeah, I can.
You
Kick me
don't.
then.
I can.
Go ahead then. I can say
Okay.
whatever the fuck I want. I just did.
No, you can't. You're in the comment section right now. You can't say whatever you want. No one can hear you. Well, what's wrong with that person, dude? Seriously. What is wrong with these people? Okay. He's tough guy. He's so tough. Incredibly tough. Tougher than you've ever seen. Yo, what's up? How old are you?
What up?
How old are you?
22.
Did you vote? Did you vote for Donald Trump?
Fuck yeah, man.
Why so?
No, I'm joking. Fuck Americans.
What's wrong with you? Let's go to the next person. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. We are just looking for some debates, y'all. Only send a guest request if you did vote for Donald Trump. Only send a guest